Welcome to one of the most beautiful spots in the world. I really appreciate being able to sit here, record this video here. Despite the weather, the view is still beautiful. There's a charm to it. And I will use this to talk about a topic that is very close to me because I experienced a very strong turning point when I was here about a year ago. And the topic of the video is getting triggered. Now, getting triggered, we're going to talk about what causes it, what it actually does to us, and how I learned to deal with it for myself. And I hope that you can get some insights on how it affected me, how I learned to live with it, and how it ultimately made my life a lot better, not getting triggered as much. And maybe you can take something away from it that you can apply to your own life. So let's start with what getting triggered actually means. Getting triggered means that an external event, usually something that somebody says or does, evokes a reaction in you. And that reaction is typically something like almost like a reflex. So there is the external event, the thing that the other person says or does, and the moment it hits you, you have an immediate output, an immediate reaction, usually driven by you feeling an emotion and you wanting to do something caused by that emotion. So there is a lack of division between the two. The one causes the other. The trigger, the external event, causes your reaction. And the problem with that is that you will end up living in reaction of these external triggers. And our whole world is built around these triggers nowadays. So it's not just other people saying things to you in order to trigger you purposefully, because these kind of things happen, right? People say things with the intention to trigger you. It's also things people say that you interpret in a way that they were maybe not even meant to be interpreted. And that triggers you. So your interpretation of what the other person says. And then there is social media and the news and these things that are purposefully created to evoke an emotional reaction in you. Now, what I realize is if I go about my life and I'm constantly subjected to those triggers, what happens is that you live in reaction to what this other person wants. This other person, be it a human being that triggers you purposefully in front of you, that says something to trigger you, that says something or does something that triggers you, or be it somebody that's behind their screen on the other side of the world that posts a video, that posts a news article. That person gets a lot of power over you by doing that because it triggers an emotional reaction in you, and that emotional reaction causes you then to do something. And once I realized this, fortunately a very long time ago, I decided to try and get triggered by as little as possible. And the way I decided to do it is to create a moment of pause between the external trigger and my reaction. So taking a step back whenever I notice that the trigger comes, and it might even actually already affect me, but I purposefully make a pause, take a step back, and don't immediately react to it. I try, and I say try because it does not always work, but that's how it got better and better through practice. I worked on not reacting to it, but instead rationally assessing the situation. Okay, what did that person say? What was that person's intention? And even in cases where the other person intended to trigger me, wanted to provoke a reaction, should I fall for this? Should I give the other person that much power over me to actually react to them rather than rationally decide on what the next step should be, on what my response should be? And in most cases, the answer is going to be no. So about a year ago, a family member of mine said something that in the moment triggered me. And I remember getting really annoyed, and my friend pointed it out to me. And by him pointing it out, I became aware that, well, this was actually a pattern. Every time that family member acted in this way, it triggered me to have that certain response. And by realizing that I fell for this, quote unquote, fell for this trigger, I was able to start taking a step back from this. So a lot of the time, it's really about realizing the pattern behind the trigger. Another trigger for me is the news. Whenever I read the news, I get triggered. Positively, negatively. You feel something great, then you feel something horrible. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to just stop watching the news. Yeah, it's sometimes helpful to be involved into world events. It's very interesting. It's very exciting because it triggers emotions in us. And then there are all these open loops, almost like a reality TV show or a TV series where we just want to know what happens next. We want to know how it continues. We want to know what happens. But the reality is that we will never really know what happens behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, organizations, you could say, are pulling the strings, but I don't even want to go that far because a lot of the time it's just things happening and nobody really knows what's happening. But your brain thinks that there is a clear answer. So it triggers an emotion and you want to know the rest. You get excited about it. You want to read more. You want to dig deeper. But all that happens is you get triggered emotionally even more. And I realized that. And I was like, man, I don't want to get triggered emotionally by these external things anymore. Let's take a step back. Let's take a pause whenever I see these triggers. Let's eliminate them. Let's eliminate the triggers as much as possible. So I limit my time on social media to purposefully. And I talked about this in my last Raw talk where I said that I try to only use it consciously, where I make the decision to open it. Okay, I'm going to go now and scroll social media for a bit and purposefully, intentionally scroll through it rather than the subconscious opening of the app and consuming where your brain is just engaged almost like a machine and you lose control of what's happening. Now, I also did that with the news. I turn off the news. I rarely ever open a news website nowadays. I probably didn't open it in literally the last 3 or 4 months until this assassination that happened on September 10th. And I started reading on it and watching on it, and immediately my entire newsfeed was covered in these news events again, in this political stuff that sucks your brain in because it creates this division in our brain. And you want to argue, you want to discuss things with people, but it's not helpful. It's not really moving us towards anything. So making that decision to withdraw myself from these triggers again was crucial. And it happened for a day and I caught myself on it. I noticed how much less in peace I was. I went to bed and I could barely fall asleep because my brain was thinking and processing and reviewing discussions I had, and there is no benefit to it. There is no benefit to it. Sure, if there's something you really care about, go for it. Work on it. Go to demonstrations. Try to convince people on it. But don't get sucked into the emotions of righteousness. Don't get sucked into the emotions of wanting to teach people a lesson. Don't try to understand all of it. And especially don't passively consume the things. I think that is the biggest takeaway with it. Like, don't passively consume things. That's what I taught myself. Don't passively get sucked into it. As long as it's conscious, as long as it's not just driven by this desire to like close an open loop in our mind that wants to know more about what's happening. And with this assassination attempt, it's a great example because this assassination happened and immediately our minds are like, so who did it? Why did it happen? Oh my God, the left here, the right there, yada, 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 all of this shit. And then you just want to know who did it. And the moment they apprehended the person who did it, your mind is already more at peace. And if you only research this one issue, then yes, your mind will be at ease again. But if there are 10 open loops, 10 things your mind wants to know about, then it's almost like a TV show where they do these things on purpose, where they create open loops to keep your mind engaged. And these open loops want to make your mind want to know more. So you finish watching, you close one of the loops, you have an answer on your story, but there's already 3 new ones, so you cannot stop watching. And it's essentially almost a trigger as well, or it's essentially a trigger as well. It's your mind wanting more. So these open loops trigger your curiosity and thereby engage you emotionally. So what's my specific approach to get triggered less? The first one I already mentioned. I avoid the triggers whenever possible. I just eliminate it from my life. And that needs to be done consciously because your subconscious mind will always chase these triggers because your subconscious mind enjoys the roller coaster ride. It wants the positive emotions. It wants the negative emotions. But removing the triggers consciously telling yourself, okay, I will not subject myself to more emotions today. At least not from that one source. from the news. I will subject myself to a little bit of emotions from scrolling consciously. Right now, I open my phone, I consciously swipe. That is okay. Keep it under control. Keep the triggers under control. Now, to real life situations where you cannot control the trigger, something happens and you get triggered. Practice taking a step back. Practice taking a pause. That is what I tell myself. That is what I did over the past years. I just practiced more and more taking a break, breathing properly. Really, really breathing. Letting it sit for a moment. Not reacting right away. Thinking. And you might think, well, what if it's in the middle of a discussion? Somebody says something that triggers me. Take a breath. The discussion is not running away. In most cases, if you don't say anything right away, the other person will just keep talking more and solidify their case, and it gives you more time to think, more time to really get clear of what you want to say. And keep in mind, you don't have to engage with everything, even in a discussion, even in an interaction. It is your right to say that you don't want to get into this discussion. It is your right to say that you don't have a strong opinion on this. It is your right to say that you don't feel like engaging in this, and let's leave it at that. It is your right to say, hey, we might have different opinions on this, but I don't really feel like getting into that. And then if somebody pressures you to do it, just leave. You don't have to argue with people. You don't have to fight with people. That's a big lesson that I had to learn the last few years. We're not obligated to stay. We're not obligated to go through these things with other people. Now, today's video was, again, a little bit all over the place because it was just raw, unscripted, unfiltered. I will start writing down a little bit of a structure for these videos because I believe it is better to have some guidance on where I'm going. This will make it a bit more clear and easier to listen to. But if you're still here, I really appreciate you being here. I mentioned this before, I really appreciate everybody who's watching my YouTube videos. It's such a pleasure to know that people actually enjoy my content, people watch this, people benefit from this. So if you're not subscribed yet, give me a follow. It really still makes me excited when the notification bell pops up and I get notified that I have a new follower, a new subscriber. If you want to connect, if you want to talk to me, my social media, my Instagram is down in the description. Shoot me a message. My DMs are open. I read all of my DMs. I answer to all of my DMs. And that's it. Appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in my next video.